Most people don't fail because they lack potential. They fail because they never demand more from themselves. They live half awake, half committed, half disciplined. They know what they should do, but they don't do it. And somewhere deep inside, they feel it. That quiet discomfort. That voice that whispers, "You're capable of more." If you've ever felt that voice, this audiobook is for you. Because this is not about hype. It's not about motivation that fades by tomorrow morning. And it's not about becoming someone you're not. This is about becoming who you already are, at your highest level. Welcome to a journey into discipline, identity, awareness, and the daily decisions that quietly shape your entire future. Right now, pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, are you living at your full capacity? Or are you living at your comfort level? That question alone separates two lives. One life is reactive. It waits, it hopes, it blames circumstances. The other life is intentional. It moves, it builds. It takes responsibility, even when it hurts. Your best self does not appear by accident. Your best self is constructed, brick by brick, habit by habit, choice by choice. And the most dangerous lie you've ever been told is this: one day I'll change. No, change does not start one day. Change starts one decision at a time, repeated daily. Motivation asks, how do I feel? Discipline asks, what must be done? And your future listens to the second question. Think about this. The person you will be 1 year from now is already being created today. Not by your goals, not by your intentions, but by your habits. You don't rise to the level of what you want. You fall to the level of what you practice. And this is where most people get stuck. They want confidence but avoid discomfort. They want success but resist structure. They want results but fear consistency. They chase feelings instead of building systems. But your best self doesn't negotiate with moods. Your best self doesn't wait to feel ready. Your best self shows up, even on days when nothing feels right. This audiobook will not comfort your excuses. It will challenge them. It will ask you to look at your routines, your standards, your self-talk, your tolerance for mediocrity. Because the truth is simple but uncomfortable. You become what you repeatedly do, not what you occasionally dream about. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop waiting for permission. You start asking better questions. Who do I need to become to earn the life I want? What habits does that version of me live by? What standards does that version of me refuse to lower? This is where the transformation begins, not externally, internally. Your best self is not louder than your current self. It is more disciplined, it has clearer boundaries, stronger self-respect, and less tolerance for distractions that drain your energy. And here's the chapter no one tells you. Becoming your best self will cost you something. It will cost you comfort. It will cost you excuses. It will cost you relationships that only survive when you stay small. But what you gain in return is priceless. Clarity, confidence, self-trust, and the quiet pride of knowing you are doing what most people avoid. As we move forward, this audiobook will give you a roadmap, not a fantasy version of success, but a grounded, disciplined path toward personal mastery. We will talk about identity, about habits, about mental strength, about doing the work when no one is watching, and most importantly, we will talk about who you choose to be daily. Because success is not a destination, it's a standard. And your best self is not something you wait for, it's something you practice. So as we continue, listen closely, not just with your ears, but with your awareness. Because somewhere in the next chapter you'll recognize yourself. And when that happens, the real work begins. Chapter 2. Identity before results. Before you change your life, you must change who you believe you are. Most people try to upgrade their results without upgrading their identity. They chase habits without questioning the self-image driving those habits. And that's why they keep falling back. Because behavior always follows identity. You don't wake up every day making choices randomly. You act in alignment with the person you think you are. If you see yourself as someone who tries, you'll quit when it gets uncomfortable. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll expect setbacks and settle for them. If you see yourself as average, you'll live an average life, even with big dreams. Your best self starts with a different question. Not, what do I want? But, who do I decide to become? That shift changes everything, because once identity changes, behavior follows naturally. Think about it. A disciplined person doesn't force discipline every day. They act disciplined because that's who they are. A confident person doesn't wait for confidence. They speak, move, and decide from certainty, even when afraid. A focused person doesn't fight distractions endlessly. They remove what doesn't align with who they are becoming. Your future is not built by intensity. It's built by consistency, and consistency comes from identity. This is why motivation alone fails. Motivation is emotional. Identity is structural. Motivation asks for energy. Identity provides direction. When you say, "I'm trying to be better," you leave the door open to excuses. When you say, "This is who I am now," excuses no longer fit. Your best self doesn't argue with distractions. It doesn't negotiate with laziness. It doesn't overthink simple decisions. It chooses alignment over comfort. And alignment often feels boring at first. There is no dramatic music when you wake up early. No applause when you say no to distractions. No recognition when you do the small things right. But those small things are not small. They are votes for your future identity. Every time you choose discipline over impulse, you cast a vote. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, another vote. Every time you stop seeking validation, another vote. And over time, those votes compound. This is how transformation actually happens. Not overnight. Not in a single breakthrough moment, but through quiet repetition. Here's the truth most people avoid. You already know what your best self would do today. You don't need more information. You need more alignment. Your best self would go to bed earlier. Your best self would stop procrastinating the hard thing. Your best self would protect focus like a weapon. Your best self would stop explaining and start executing. And the reason you resist those actions isn't lack of knowledge. It's attachment to an old identity. An identity that feels safe, predictable, familiar. But familiarity is not freedom. If you keep doing what feels familiar, you'll keep getting familiar results. Becoming your best self requires letting go of who you've been comfortable being. That doesn't mean hating yourself, it means outgrowing yourself. You don't insult the old version, you simply stop letting it lead. This is where most people hesitate, because growth requires separation. You must separate from habits that no longer serve you, from environments that keep you small, from conversations that drain your energy, and sometimes from people who only recognize the old version of you. That chapter is uncomfortable, but necessary, because your best self cannot emerge in an environment designed for your past. Growth demands space, and once you claim that space, something powerful happens. You stop asking, "Can I do this?" and start asking, "Why wouldn't I?" You stop waiting for confidence and start building competence. You stop chasing approval and start trusting yourself. That is real power. As we continue, we'll break down the exact habits and mental frameworks that turn identity into action. Not motivation, but systems. Not hype, but structure. Because success is not about becoming someone new. It's about removing everything that isn't aligned with who you're meant to be. And in the next chapter, we'll confront the biggest enemy of your best self. Not fear, not failure, but comfort. Chapter 3. Comfort is the enemy. If you want the truth, not the motivational truth, not the social media version, the real one, here it is. Comfort is the most dangerous place you can live. Not because it feels bad, but because it feels good enough. Comfort doesn't scream, it whispers. It tells you, tomorrow is fine. You deserve rest. One more scroll won't hurt. You've already done enough. And slowly, quietly, it steals your potential. Comfort doesn't destroy dreams overnight. It delays them until they die naturally. This is why most people never become their best self. Not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, but because they become addicted to ease. Your mind will always choose the familiar over the meaningful. The brain is wired to conserve energy, not create greatness, so if you don't train it, it will betray you. Every time. Think about this. The hardest version of you is not the one pushing at the limit. It's the one choosing discipline when no one is watching, when there's no pressure, no deadline, no consequence. That's where character is built. Anyone can perform when forced. Leaders perform when they're free to quit, and don't. Comfort says, stop. Discipline says, continue. And discipline is not a personality trait. It's a skill you practice daily. You don't eliminate comfort, you outgrow it. You train yourself to tolerate discomfort long enough for growth to happen. Because growth is never comfortable. Growth stretches. Growth exposes weakness. Growth demands patience. And patience is painful in a world addicted to instant reward. This is why your best self feels unnatural at first. Because it is. You are breaking patterns that kept you safe, not successful. And here's the key most people miss. You don't need to suffer endlessly. You need to choose your discomfort. The discomfort of waking up early, or the discomfort of regret. The discomfort of discipline, or the discomfort of staying stuck. The discomfort of focus, or the discomfort of distraction and anxiety. You're going to feel discomfort either way. The difference is what it gives you in return. Comfort takes and gives nothing back. Discipline gives back everything. This is why your best self isn't built in extreme moments. It's built in ordinary decisions, when you don't feel like it and still do it. When no one would know, and you still choose right. When quitting would be easy, and you stay. Those moments stack, and slowly, something changes. Your tolerance increases, your standards rise, your excuses weaken. You stop asking, how can I make this easier? And start asking, how can I make myself stronger? That question alone separates winners from everyone else. Because strength compounds. Mental strength, emotional strength, discipline strength. And once you build it, life gets easier. Not because challenges disappear, but because you're no longer fragile. Your best self is not soft. It's calm under pressure, focused in chaos, consistent when motivation fades. And the irony is this: the more you resist comfort now, the more freedom you earn later. Freedom from anxiety, freedom from self-doubt, freedom from regret, freedom to trust yourself. In the next part, we'll go deeper into the daily habits that separate disciplined people from talented but inconsistent ones, and how to build them without burning out. Because becoming your best self is not about intensity, it's about precision. Chapter 4. Discipline is built in silence. There is a lie you've been told your entire life. A comfortable lie. That discipline comes from motivation. That you must feel ready before you act. That the right mood creates the right behavior. That lie keeps people stuck. Because motivation is emotional. And emotions are unstable. Your best self is not built on how you feel. It's built on what you do despite how you feel. Discipline is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need an audience. It doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It shows up when no one is clapping. And that's exactly why it works. Think about this. Every person you admire, every calm leader, every focused achiever, every grounded, confident individual, they don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They remove decision-making from moments of weakness. They don't wake up asking, do I feel like doing this today? They wake up knowing, this is who I am. This is what I do. That identity shift changes everything. Because once discipline becomes chapter of your identity, it no longer feels like force. It feels like alignment. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop arguing internally. You stop draining energy on choices you've already made. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't lack discipline. They lack structure. They expect willpower to do the job of systems, but willpower fades. Systems don't. Your best self is not created by heroic effort. It's created by boring consistency. The same wake-up time, the same focus blocks, the same non-negotiables, day after day, week after week, even when progress feels invisible. Especially when progress feels invisible, because that's where most people quit. They don't quit because it's hard. They quit because results are delayed. But growth always lags behind effort. Always. You plant seeds long before you see anything break the surface. And if you dig them up too early, you kill them. This is where emotional maturity matters. Can you stay committed without validation? Can you stay focused without applause? Can you trust the process when nothing seems to be happening? Your best self can. That's the difference. And here's something no one tells you. Discipline creates emotional freedom. When you know you will do what you said you'd do, you stop doubting yourself. Self-trust replaces anxiety. Confidence isn't loud. It's quiet certainty. It's knowing that no matter what happens, you'll handle it. And that certainty comes from keeping promises to yourself. Small promises. Daily promises. Wake up when you said you would. Finish what you start. Do the hard thing first. Not perfectly. Consistently. This is how discipline compounds. Not in dramatic transformations, but in subtle shifts. You become calmer, more focused, less reactive. You stop needing external motivation because your internal standards are clear. And once your standards rise, your life follows. In the next part, we'll break down why habits shape identity and how to redesign your daily routines so your environment works for you, not against you. Because willpower is unreliable. But the right habits? They make success automatic. Chapter 5. Habits shape identity, whether you like it or not. Here's the truth most people avoid. You are not who you think you are. You are who your habits prove you are. Not your intentions, not your goals, not your potential. Your habits. Every action you repeat is casting a vote for the type of person you are becoming. And the scary part? You are always becoming someone, even when you're not paying attention. There is no neutral. If you don't design your habits, your environment will design them for you, and your environment is ruthless. Phones are engineered to steal attention. Comfort is engineered to reduce effort. Distraction is engineered to feel harmless. But it adds up, slowly, quietly, daily. That's why change feels hard, not because you're weak, but because your habits are working exactly as designed. Here's the shift your best self makes. They stop asking, "What do I want to achieve?" and start asking, "What kind of person would naturally achieve this?" Because goals expire. Identity doesn't. Anyone can get motivated for a week. Few people redesign who they are. Your best self doesn't try to wake up early. They are a person who wakes up early. They don't try to be disciplined. They are disciplined. And that identity is built through tiny, repeatable actions. Not dramatic overhauls, not 30-day challenges, but small behaviors that feel almost too easy to matter. Because consistency beats intensity every time. Let me tell you something counterintuitive. The smaller the habit, the more powerful it is. Why? Because small habits are sustainable. And sustainability creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates identity. That's the chain, and once identity changes, behavior follows automatically. You stop forcing yourself. You stop fighting resistance, because resistance disappears when the action matches who you believe you are. This is why your environment matters more than motivation. If junk food is visible, you'll eat it. If your phone is within reach, you'll check it. If your bed is comfortable, you'll stay in it. That's not a character flaw. That's human psychology. Your best self understands this and uses it strategically. They design their environment to make good habits easier and bad habits harder. They don't rely on self-control. They reduce friction. They put friction where they want resistance. and remove friction where they want consistency. That's intelligence, that's maturity, that's leadership over yourself. And here's something important. You don't need to fix everything. You just need one habit that proves you're serious, one habit you keep no matter what, one daily action that says, I keep promises to myself. That single habit becomes the anchor. Everything else builds from there, because self-respect isn't built through grand declarations. It's built through follow-through, and every time you follow through, you strengthen the identity of your best self. In the next part, we're going to talk about focus, why most people are busy but unfulfilled, and how to eliminate mental noise so your energy goes toward what actually matters. Because your best self doesn't do more, they do less, better. Chapter 6. Focus is the new discipline. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they're scattered. Too many priorities, too many inputs, too much noise. They wake up already reacting. Notifications, messages, opinions, expectations. By noon, their energy is gone. Not because they worked hard, but because their attention was everywhere except where it mattered. Here's a hard truth. Your life moves in the direction of what you focus on, whether you choose that focus or not. Focus is not about doing more. It's about deciding what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Your best self understands this deeply. They don't let the world decide their priorities. They decide first, then protect those decisions fiercely. Because attention is finite, and whatever you give it to will grow. If you focus on problems, they multiply. If you focus on distractions, time disappears. If you focus on comparison, confidence erodes. But when you focus on growth, even imperfect effort compounds. Here's why most people struggle with focus. They confuse urgency with importance. Urgent feels loud. Important feels quiet. Urgent demands reaction. Important demands intention. Your best self learns to pause before reacting. They ask, does this move me forward or just keep me busy? Busy feels productive, but busy is often just avoidance in disguise. Avoidance of thinking deeply. Avoidance of committing fully. Avoidance of risking failure. Focus requires courage, because when you focus, you eliminate escape routes. You can no longer blame lack of time. You can no longer hide behind multitasking. You have to confront your potential directly. That's uncomfortable, which is why distraction is so seductive. But your best self chooses discomfort now to avoid regret later. They build focus the same way they build discipline. Through structure, not willpower. They create blocks of uninterrupted time. They reduce decision fatigue. They simplify choices, because clarity creates momentum, and momentum creates belief. Here's a principle your best self lives by. What gets scheduled gets done. Not what gets wished for, not what gets talked about, what gets scheduled. Your goals deserve space on your calendar, not just space in your mind. And when you protect that space, something powerful happens. You start trusting yourself, because every focused session becomes evidence. Evidence that you can show up. Evidence that you can finish. Evidence that you are capable of more than you thought. Focus isn't about perfection. It's about presence. Being fully where you are, instead of mentally everywhere else. And when you practice that daily, your confidence stops being fragile, because it's built on action, not hype. In the next part, we're going to talk about emotional control, why your emotions are not the enemy, and how mastering them is the final unlock to becoming your best self. Because discipline without emotional intelligence breaks under pressure, and your best self is built to last. Chapter 7. Emotional control is the real power. Your emotions are not the problem. Your reaction to them is. Most people think becoming their best self means feeling good all the time. Calm, confident, motivated. That's a lie. Your best self still feels fear, still feels doubt, still feels anger, frustration, disappointment. The difference is simple. They don't let emotions drive the car. They let emotions speak. Then they decide. Here's where most people lose control of their lives. They react first and think later. A comment triggers them. A setback crushes them. A delay frustrates them. And suddenly, one emotion hijacks an entire day. Your best self refuses to live like that. They understand one powerful truth. Emotions are information, not instructions. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean you must stop. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you must react. Just because you feel unmotivated doesn't mean the work disappears. Emotional control is not suppression. It's response selection. It's the pause, that half second where you breathe, observe, and choose a response that serves your future, not your ego. That pause is where power lives, and that pause can be trained. Your best self trains it daily. They don't ask, "How do I feel?" They ask, "What does this moment require?" Some days require patience. Some days require discipline. Some days require silence. Some days require courage. But none of them require impulsive self-sabotage. Here's something most people never learn. You don't need to eliminate negative emotions to succeed. You need to function despite them. Progress is not blocked by discomfort. It's blocked by avoidance. Your best self understands that emotions rise and emotions fall, but habits remain. So instead of negotiating with feelings, they commit to standards. They don't say, "I'll do it when I feel ready." They say, "I'll do it because this is who I am." That identity shift changes everything. When you identify as someone who keeps promises, your emotions lose authority. When you identify as someone who finishes what they start, excuses sound weaker. When you identify as someone who respects their future, temporary feelings stop winning feelings. This doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger, and strength is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need validation. It just shows up, again and again. In the next part, we're going to talk about self-respect. Why it's the foundation of confidence. Why boundaries change your life. And why becoming your best self requires choosing yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. Because confidence is not loud. It's consistent. And consistency is built from self-respect. Chapter 8. Self-respect creates confidence. Confidence is misunderstood. Most people think confidence comes from success, from money, from praise, from winning. But that's not confidence. That's external reassurance. Real confidence comes from something quieter, self-respect. And self-respect is built when your actions align with your values, especially when no one is watching. Your best self does not feel confident every day, but they trust themselves, and trust is stronger than confidence. Trust is built when you keep promises to yourself, when you do the hard thing after saying you would, when you stop abandoning yourself for comfort. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," and don't, you lose a little self-respect. Every time you tolerate what drains you. Every time you stay silent when you should speak. Every time you choose easy over right. You send a message to your mind. I don't matter. Your best self changes that message. They don't wait to feel worthy before acting worthy. They act with self-respect, and confidence follows. Here's the truth most people avoid. Confidence is not built by hyping yourself up. It's built by doing what you said you'd do, even when it's inconvenient. That's it. That's the formula. No hacks, no shortcuts. Self-respect grows in uncomfortable moments, when you say no and feel guilty, when you leave what no longer fits and feel afraid, when you choose growth and feel lonely. Your best self understands something crucial. Boundaries are not selfish. They are self-preservation. If you don't protect your time, energy, and focus, someone else will consume them, and not because they're evil, but because unguarded resources always get used. Your best self stops explaining their boundaries. They don't negotiate their values. They don't apologize for growth. They realize something powerful. Every yes to the wrong thing is a no to your future. So they choose deliberately. They choose who gets access. They choose what deserves effort. They choose what drains them and what fuels them. And here's the paradox. The more self-respect you build, the less validation you need. You stop chasing approval. You stop shrinking to be liked. You stop bending to fit rooms that were never meant for you. Not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Your best self would rather be misunderstood than betray who they're becoming. This doesn't make you cold. It makes you clear. Clear about your standards, clear about your direction, clear about your worth. And clarity creates calm. In the next part, we'll talk about consistency. Why it beats intensity every time, why small actions compound into identity, and how your best self is built quietly, one repeatable day at a time. Because greatness is not a moment. It's a pattern. Chapter 9. Consistency is the real superpower. Most people don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because they are inconsistent. They show up when they feel motivated. They disappear when it gets boring. They sprint for a week, then disappear for a month. Your best self doesn't live like that. They understand a truth that changes everything. Consistency beats intensity every time. It's not the massive effort that transforms your life. It's the repeatable effort. The effort you can sustain on your worst day, not your best. Your best self doesn't ask, "What's the most I can do today?" They ask, "What's the minimum I can do every day without fail?" Because momentum is fragile and habits are stronger than moods. Think about it. Anyone can wake up inspired. Anyone can grind when adrenaline is high. Anyone can promise big changes after a breakdown. But who are you when it's quiet? When no one is watching? When there's no urgency forcing you forward? That's where your future is decided. Your best self builds systems, not wishes. They don't rely on willpower. They remove friction. They prepare the night before. They design their environment. They make good choices easier and bad choices harder. They understand something most people miss. Discipline is not punishment. It's self-respect in action. Your best self doesn't chase perfect days. They chase non-zero days. Days where something moved forward. Days where identity was reinforced. Days where the vote was cast for the person they're becoming. Because every action is a vote. You don't become confident by thinking confident thoughts. You become confident by acting in alignment again and again. You don't become disciplined in a moment. You become disciplined through repetition. Your best self is built quietly. No announcements, no dramatic transformations, no overnight miracles, just daily decisions stacking on top of each other. And here's the chapter most people need to hear. You don't need more time. You need more consistency. 10 focused minutes a day beats 0 hours of perfection. 1 honest action beats 1,000 intentions. Your best self doesn't wait to feel ready. They start while unsure. They act while imperfect. They trust that clarity comes after action, not before. This is how identity changes, not through inspiration, through evidence. Evidence that you show up, evidence that you follow through, evidence that you don't quit on yourself. And slowly, quietly, undeniably, you become someone you respect. In the final part, we'll bring everything together: purpose, discipline, identity, and direction, and define what it truly means to live as your best self long-term, not temporarily. Because becoming your best self isn't a finish line, it's a way of living. Chapter 10. Becoming is a lifestyle, not a moment. Becoming your best self is not a destination. It is not a finish line you cross one day and celebrate forever. It is a standard you live by. And this is where most people get it wrong. They treat self-improvement like a project, something to complete, something to check off. Your best self treats it like a way of being. They don't ask, "How do I change my life fast?" They ask, "How do I live in a way that makes relapse impossible?" Because the goal isn't motivation. The goal is identity alignment. Your best self doesn't chase success. They become someone who creates success naturally. They don't chase confidence. They live in integrity with their values. They don't chase discipline. They design their life around responsibility. This is the final shift. From external goals to internal standards, from chasing outcomes to honoring process, From short-term excitement to long-term stability. Your best self understands something deeply powerful. Who you are becoming matters more than what you achieve. Achievements fade, titles change, money moves, but character stays. Discipline stays, self-respect stays, and those things compound longer than any result ever could. Your best self wakes up with intention, not urgency, not panic, not comparison. Intention. They ask, what kind of person am I today? How do I act like them, even when it's uncomfortable? They don't wait for life to calm down. They build strength inside the chaos. They don't escape difficulty. They use it. They don't avoid pain. They learn from it. They don't let the past define them. They let it train them. And here's the truth you need to hear clearly. You don't need to become someone else. You need to return to who you were always meant to be. The version of you that keeps promises. The version of you that finishes what they start. The version of you that doesn't abandon themselves. That version is not far away. They are built, choice by choice. Every time you act instead of hesitate. Every time you stay disciplined instead of emotional. Every time you choose growth instead of comfort. This is the work, and it never stops, because that's the gift. A life of alignment, a life of direction, a life where you trust yourself. This audiobook wasn't about hype. It was about responsibility. It was about reclaiming control. It was about becoming the kind of person your future self will thank. So now the question isn't, can you become your best self? The question is, will you choose them today? Again, if this audiobook resonated with you, share the line that hit you hardest. And tell us, what topic would you want to master next on your journey? Because this is not the end. This is the standard. And from here forward, you live it.